Good morning, YouTube. I'm sitting here near downtown Tucson on the university campus, and I just thought, you know, I always talk about history, and Shawn Smoak gave me this idea for some history off a vlog he did the other day. It was a very small portion of his, but it spurred an idea in my mind. So I thought I'd share some of this with you. This little street right here contains so much history for your intrepid motovlogger. My band back in the 90s used to play here a lot in the early 90s, the Rock. And this is where I won over the heart of my wife that I've been married to for 21 years. And this street used to be crazy. Of course, this place looks entirely different in the dark. It looks much better in the dark. Like most nightclubs. This right here used to be a club called NYC, and it's now like a Subway sandwich shop. Right up ahead there was another one called Tiburon. Man, these streets would be packed in the evenings, people going back and forth between the different clubs. But this one, the Rock, always played hard rock music. So back in the early 90s, well, 1993, no, 92, I was in a band called Jagged Edj. We did quite a bit of recording. We recorded an album. Hopefully, if I've been able to find some of that stuff, you're looking at some scanned pictures of that time period. And yeah, it was a fun time, man. Well, I decided that I would share with you. Look at that cool guy right there. Look at that bike. Awesome, isn't it? Come on, he's gonna follow me now. So my wife, I'd invited her to one of my shows. She had been a friend from high school. I'd met her in high school, and yeah, you know what? It was the early '90s, late '80s, early '90s. So late '80s still had its influence, and it was all about the acid wash jeans, ripped up at the knees, and you know, for her it was all about the hair. And oh man, so I'd met her in high school. I think I was a senior when she was a freshman, something like that. We only overlapped for about a year. Anyhow, she had been dating one of my best friends, and so that's really how I knew her. Though you know, before my best friend had made a play for her, I tried, and she wouldn't have anything to do with me. But as time goes by, she graduated, and I graduated, and then she graduated, and then my best friend graduated, and he went away to college in New York City. And as things would have it, after a couple years, of course, long-distance relationships really don't always turn out for the best. And they ended up breaking up. Now, when they broke up, I looked at that as an opportunity, but I'd already been in love and out of love, and had several girlfriends along the way, and just I don't know, something about it just said, you know what, we're already friends, we don't even have to build that rapport. So I invited her to one of my shows, and this was not too long after the official breakup. Mind you, they'd been separated for quite a while, because he was living in New York City and she was living here in Tucson. But there was a song that was really popular in the late 80s, early 90s by the band Tesla called Love Song. And I mean to tell you, our guitar player for Jagged Edj, Glenn Timms, he's the guy that plays guitar for me now in 30 Year Itch. And Hey, let me tell you something. That guy could play note for note just about anything he wanted to. And he had that song hammered flat. And I'm not afraid to say it, back in the day, guess what? My vocals had that song hammered flat as well. And nowhere near that now. I mean, that was freaking athletic performance style singing. Nowhere near that now. Now I just have a good time. But that song, a lot of the lyrics really seemed appropriate. It was encouraging someone who just suffered a breakup, that love was going to find them again, and it was just around the corner, and all that good stuff. So that song was on our set list for that night, and I had invited her down. Now, she came with a date. Another guy I knew, I remembered it from high school. In fact, I think we were even enrolled in some of the same college classes together. I won't say his name because, yeah, you never know who's going to watch these videos. And I always tag Tucson and Arizona. And, you know, by golly, if somebody's interested enough to come and look at my vlog because of what I've tagged and it turns out to be them, I'd rather not throw their name out there under the bus. If they watch it, they'll know who they are. At any rate, he came with, and the two of them were out there together. And, you know, from the stage, I'll admit I engineered some things because you can do that when you're the singer, right? So I made sure that some of our regular followers, and Joe, if you're watching, I know you'll remember this, but I'd said to some of our regular fans, man, and the buddies of the band, I was like, hey, if you see this girl right here, hey, make sure she gets to the front of the stage and make sure she stays protected, because we could get a pretty crazy crowd. And I said, make sure she stays protected, but more importantly, you know, see if you can get between her and that dude right there. God, I'm such a dick. So I did, and he did, and a couple others did. And before you know it, the night's banging along, and man, you know, my memory of that night may be skewed by what occurred afterwards, but my memory of that night says that we hammered it flat. One of the best performances I feel like I've ever given on a stage, and I've done a lot of performing, and that still to this day has got to be one of the best performances in my memory. Just my vocals were all there, never felt questionable, didn't have to pull not a single note. The guitar playing was nuts on, our bass player was always stellar, and we were being backed by a dude on drums who loved this music as much as we did, man. And we just had a great set going, and in the middle of the set we decided to quiet it down just a little bit, and we whipped out Love Song. And the lights went dark. The people running the light board, you know, it's usually some local person over there. They were familiar enough with the song to know more or less what was going to happen. So they dropped the lights, put the light right on me, and I'm singing this song, and I'm looking right at my future wife, singing it directly to her, looking her right in the eye. And as I do, you know, she starts swaying back and forth, and we locked eyes. And that was the moment that we went from friends to being in love, because she wasn't coming off of it. And I jumped off stage at the end of that song, went right up to her and kissed her right in the face, and she kissed me back, you better believe it. And after the show, of course, she's hanging out right next to the stage, and after the show, she's hanging out with me, and we're holding hands and kind of, you know, kissing and pecking at each other like kids do when they're in love. And our buddy comes over. He's just kind of standing there as I'm loading gear in my van. He says, so what's the deal? Have you got a ride home? And she looked over at me, and I was like, yeah, she's got a ride home. He was a good sport about it, you know. He was just like, all right, see ya. Wow. So that's our story. That's the story of how my wife and I got to be partners. So yeah, that was the history of North Park Avenue there in Tucson. Significant historical event. 21 years later, more than 21 years later, gosh, we were together for a year or so before we got married, tied the knot. So yeah, you know, some 22, 23, 24 years later, we're still married. We got 2 awesome kids. And, you know, I just thought I'd share that story. Thank you, Shawn, for the inspiration, telling us how you and Kelly got together and how she garnered your attention. And, well, that was my story. And, you know, I don't know if it's romantic or not. I really don't know. It was just how life went. And back in the day when people weren't texting and Facebooking and all that good stuff, it seems like today more people fall in love through folks they meet online, whether it's through one of the services or just they just meet each other online and in a forum or something like that. I suppose that seems to be growing more and more normal, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I kind of dig our story, man. I think it's a little unique. And anyhow, I just thought I'd share that with you. Sorry if I put you guys to sleep. Thanks, guys. I'll talk to you again soon. I love Sunday mornings.